It's Disclosure Day on Her Story Revisited, and we are here with associate producer Mistie Gotch.
Hi.
Hi, Misty.
Thank you.
Came out.
Yes, we're actually going to see it today.
Oh, excited.
Disclosure, because it's not just about the movie. Obviously, the movie is going to be fun, and we love everything that Spielberg has done, clear until now. But it's also, I think, a sign of the times that we're in. If you think about evolution as an iceberg, it seems that what we've been told is like the very tip of that iceberg. And every time there is, an attempt, it seems to like peel layers, to reveal more of what's underneath it. Humanity as a whole is kind of raising its frequency so that we're
Describe the
more.
iceberg first.
Right, so in the iceberg, the little tip that points out and the sea level is here, so we all know, okay, this is reality.
Which iceberg are you discussing?
No, I'm talking about disclosure of some of the basic stuff. I think that everyone has had a conversation or even saw a movie about it.
Are we alone?
First of all, have we ever been visited? Has there been UFOs or ships that, came and crashed? Have we recovered beings that possibly were on these ships, live alive? Have we communicated with them? We know that we've probably retro-engineered because we don't know how they get from here to there without, carrying gasoline and jet fuel and things like that. So what technology did they bring? And we most likely retro-engineered some of that.
But a more interesting question is also what Dolores Cannon brings up, which is this idea of interdimensionality and the plasma field. So, Misty, we're having a discussion about the plasma field.
Like we do.
I'd like to hear a little bit about your thoughts on this, because we were talking about, are we changing as the Matrix? Is the Matrix being upgraded to a higher order of software? Just that. And can all of humanity collectively affect the outcome of how that software works?
The software. Are we calling software like consciousness?
Yeah. Yes.
Ooh, those are some big questions. So my thoughts on the matter when you and I are talking, I kind of drift in and out of analyzing everything through the lens of human consciousness. And, of course, my life, like your lives, we found each other on the path of exploring our own consciousness, right? That's how we got here. And so I always kind of think, what is my consciousness doing? What is everyone else's consciousness doing? What's consciousness as a whole doing? What are the patterns there? And it definitely seems like we're in a shift. It seems like to me that we're in a shift from almost like a dualistic black and white phase into a little bit more expansive phase, and into a phase where we're sort of being forced to hold something that we've never had to hold before, which is an undefined space or a question or a both and situation. It's almost like a paradoxical way of thinking. And it's such that I don't even exactly have the words, but I can say things that kind of hint around at it. But it's been my own experience, and talking to you guys and talking to other people who are going through this sort of own expansion of consciousness, that the shift individually and hopefully collectively is like breaking out of a binary. That's what it feels like to me.
So been in a fixed state of this dualistic consciousness for a tremendously long amount of time, several thousand years of human history. Has male, female, good, bad, light, dark, fight, flight,
sure,
and man against nature, and so many things that have led to the way that the world works today. And it seems to me that the expansion of consciousness is showing that maybe there's a much bigger picture that we are all part of. Yeah. And maybe that field of potentiality that they call the quantum field is literally a malleable fabric we're all interacting with.
Right, and let's not forget that in quantum, it's not just zeros and one, on or off, but there's the ability of it's on and off
Yes.
at the same time. And so if you think about it, we probably were like in kindergarten. You know, you explain something to a young child in oversimplifying, making it very basic, so that there isn't too much complexity, and they go, well, you know, I don't know what this is about. But as we evolve and we interact with the matrix and we realize, you know what, there's nothing black or white. If you even look at the light affecting our eyes, there's not even colors. It's our brain interpreting it and making it, this is green, this is blue, you know. So all of the stuff that we think is so, this is reality. When you look down at the molecular level, it's just energy. It's just molecules dancing and frequencies together. So as we're evolving to go, holy shit, this is how is the world around us. Everything shifts, and we can then, as you're saying, it's not black or white, and the tone of grays, and but whether that means in terms of what's ahead of us or how we're evolving as a whole planet, as a whole humanity.
Well, let's talk about cosmic disclosure when it comes to that, because I really think that humanity itself went through an evolutionary process right at the point when man landed on the moon, and everyone was able to see through these few men's eyes. They were able to see the entire planet as one. And this idea of being one mind, one love, one pulse, one planet, made us aware of the aura of the earth, that we're all interacting in that field, and we're all one in that field.
But think about it. It was just a change of positioning. We went from being on Earth to being out, away from Earth, looking back. And so, in this perspective, if we start to think, but what if we run out alone in the universe? I mean, there are billions of planets. I don't think nature abhors vacuums. There's no way you have billions of galaxies with nothing living on it. And it just doesn't make sense. And so the what if questions makes us go into places that we typically were not allowed to go. All aliens are bad. If you make people scared, they're not going to go down there. And all the depictions in movies, all of that, oh, stay away from that, we can't trust them. They can't trust us. I just feel like, oh, they're after us. Everybody's after us.
That's why I always like Star Trek, because they always made us think.
That, I was just going to say Star Trek, because what you're saying now about Star Trek is what I was thinking about, because as we're talking about consciousness and disclosure and going from our lived perspective to a next level lived perspective, I remember being a little kid and watching Star Trek, and they had the people, they had gone to this planet where the people were all non-binary. There was no male or female on the planet. And it was the first time that concept had entered my mind as a little kid. And I thought, well, I wonder if that is a potential evolution of humanity, just a seed that got planted a really long time ago. And so now you see, especially with young people who tend to be very open-minded, we're in 2026 here, you see more and more people in general, but young people especially, not identifying necessarily with the third gender. You have a projection of the male, female, and then the third label is non-binary. Neither of those. I'm not a 1. I'm not a 0. I'm not.
Don't wedge me in. Yes.
Don't wedge me in.
But it becomes almost sort of like an unlabeled, expansive potentialness that can be shifted any which way through a spectrum of humanity that doesn't necessarily have or need a definition. And if that's not a leap past binary in a perspective of consciousness, I don't know what is. And you see it now. You see people identifying as non-binary people living full, rich, expressive, lives and identities. And it reminds me of that show us Star Trek when I was young. But then what you also see is the binary mentality of our society struggling with it a little bit here and there, going, what? I can't make sense of this. I don't know how to.
Yeah. And especially labels and how we label things and how we identify with the label.
Right. So as part of the collective starts to shift into accepting a broader, expansive definition of our shared agreed reality, the people or the consciousness who's feeling the shift without being prepared for it is going, what's going on? I'm confused, but it is a collective experience.
Yes. Okay, people.
The reality that we agree on is where we get fed right now. That's the reality we agree on.
The next part I want to talk about the non-physical being.
Don't forget Star Trek reference. That's
Well, particularly because of Star Trek. Do you remember the butt-headed guys? They had these tall guys with robes that had the back of their head looked like a butt. It had like a crack down the back.
yeah.
Two bulges on either side, and they barely talked. They talked telepathically, but they were always admonishing them spiritually.
Are you talking about the buttheads?
Yeah, the buttheads in Star Trek.
Okay.
No, what I wanted to talk about was the non-physical side of disclosure. Because I think the secret part of the secret space program is they don't want the general public to realize that the Matrix is an interactive field of consciousness.
Right.
That time travel, anti-gravity, and
free energy,
and all of the things that were supposed by these mathematicians in the 20s and 30s actually were proven through the 40s, 50s, 60s, and so forth. And they've kept that sequestered from the general public. And that part of disclosure means you have to acknowledge that there are spectra of light and sound that the human brain cannot reach, and that in those spectra are interdimensional worlds of life.
Right.
And that's what Dolores Cannon speaks about. I think it's a much more interesting question, because if you look at the videos that have just been disclosed on the news, they are plasma orbs.
Yeah. They're pure light.
And who's to say that isn't an entire civilization within that plasma orb?
Yeah, I mean, obviously...
We don't even know.
It's
beyond our physics. It's beyond the human ability to understand. Because maybe, and probably, interdimensional life is just as rich as under the sea life, and therefore unidentified sea-bearing objects, USOs,
inner Earth
life
were most likely beings that were living when they were major,
just like the Native Americans said.
But think, when they were major cataclysm, we know they were not just floods, but there was meteors hitting the Earth. Where would you go if you knew they were coming? You would go underground, and maybe they just stay down there. And so, I mean, there's Shambhala, Agartha. You heard about these myths, but you can't invent things like that. They have to be, based on some reality that happened at a particular time. It's just that a lot of history is gone underground.
Well, we talked about, Pamela, the other day about Babylon and the kind of the myth of a place that exists but vibrationally somewhere else, and that the Shambhala, the underground, and part of our brain wants to think of it as a physical. Okay, we can walk there, but maybe it's not physical, because what I hear you saying is that disclosure isn't necessarily just about have alien physical spacecrafts visited us here in a physical world in a way that we physically understand and are through understanding, but it's more about what it would take for us to expand into a shift into an interdimensional awareness to really grasp more of what could be closed.
Right. And apparently that shift that you're mentioning, that shift must happen first before we allow ourselves to use free energy, all the anti-gravity things that we know is being used, because we see them and then they're out of our sky. They're in, they're out. I mean, how do they move that fast?
They phase in
and phase out. But they've obviously, their mindset, and Dolores actually was very much talking to that, not just time is not linear, but as long as we think this is reality, everything that's outside of that reality is not accessible to us as an evolving being. So once the mind shifts change, then what Nikola Tesla discovered with there's free energy, we can tap into it at any given time. There were others, he wasn't the only one.
But that's the same plasma field.
But I'm just saying, the disclosure part is not in some evil cabal. No, I'm just saying, the evolution has to happen slowly. It has to happen kind of over a period of time, because our minds would not take oh, we can levitate, shift, move. Everything is free. It's true. It's not tangible enough.
No, it couldn't be controlled or made profit from.
Well, part of it is
why
definitely
it was
that.
suppressed.
Yeah, but
it's that simple, really.
But now,
and I think it's going to change with money changing digitally.
It'll help.
And it will change with people's ability to have more freedom in the movement of capital and more freedom in the movement of thought and the exchange of ideas. It really could be. I mean, they say that the planetary alignments, the prophecies were going to say all of humanity would shift all at once and consciousness would awaken and suddenly everyone would be enlightened.
Overnight.
Maybe it's not necessarily an enlightening thing as it is a shift in perspective of potentiality.
Right. The what if.
Well, the way I see it is kind of like there's a spectrum that we can experience. And if that whole spectrum shifts, then we have more experience available to us. And the more of us collectively choose that higher experience, that higher thinking, it can facilitate that for others, as we know. But it's still an individual choice, right? To where you on the spectrum, each person gets to decide their own conscience and the movement of it up and down that spectrum of availability.
Right.
And that's the observer, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, when you think of quantum computing and you think of the double slit experiment and how they've proven that if wherever the observer focuses, expands, and what
changes
you focus
the outcome
on expands is actually been proven mathematically, and now they can name it. Now they can say this is the quantum field, and that superposition dictates that two truths can happen simultaneously. Let's talk about the two truths, because we've had some very deep discussions about that.
We have. Well, to begin with, I mean, I guess I would just say what you're saying about the observer, right? So if each person is an observer of their reality, they become an architect by what they choose to observe. And then we live in this space where our shared observations, we can agree on observations that, for example, would create society. We agree to live in societies. We agree on social structures. We agree on money. We agree on, work days. We agree on a calendar. We make all these agreements that make things run. And so there are truths that are more scaled and more widely effective, but then there are also individual observations, individual choices, individual truths that might seem to contradict each other. But if you can hold them both, for example, the light and the dark within any individual human, we have the light within us. And in our spiritual lives, we're taught focus on the light, integrate, expand the light. And that's all good, but it doesn't really acknowledge that there's always a balance, that there's always a subconscious, there's always what Jung called the shadow. And almost no social societal work done, well, by nature of it being oppressed into the shadow. And so, the two truths are that both of those things exist, and it's never completely one or the other. And then, so you think of it like a yin yang, and then you get your yin yang and your two truths, and next to someone else's two truths. And, I think for me, it's hard to explain, but it's more about shifting out of certainty and allowing uncertainty to be an actual valid function. Because so many times we cling to definition. We want an answer. And that's something that for my spiritual path extremely useful, is to stop looking for answers and definitions. Because think of it, of the multiple, let's just say a crisis of faith, right? You're in a time period, you go through a crisis of faith, you think to yourself, does God exist? Okay, we're in let's play it binary. We got two answers. Yes. And then the brain goes, whew, man, I'm so relieved. God exists. I can relax. I'm good. But then science goes, wait, hold on. What? Hold on. We didn't prove that. Don't get too comfortable. But then, so the mind goes, okay, fine. God doesn't exist. And then the spirit and the heart goes, that's not comfortable either, And so you end up with this war of either definition is incomplete. Neither definition feels true. But guess what happens when you shift into the question? When you shift into the question, you don't cling to a definition, because any word you use to say anything to do with divinity or God is going to be a box that's incomplete. Yeah. But if you just question, does God exist? Don't cling to an answer. Don't look for an answer. You're just open. And that openness is closer to the experience of the essence of what one would call true than any answer or definition would be. So I have found that the openness and the question and the uncertainty, which is holding both, right? To be really, really helpful for myself, which is why we've talked about it so much in the morning.
I know, but I also don't have a clue.
Yeah. And okay, in that uncertainty, but not as a complacency, as an active asking and as an active engagement in a question and as an active openness. It was Rainier Maria Rilke that said, live the question until you find yourself living in the answer. You just become the expression of question, what you were looking for, without trying to chisel out the answer. It just unfolds.
Well, I just had a thought when you were doing this, of the yin yang, that there's a little seed of the other in each.
Right.
And it's like, are we looking from a perspective off planet toward our lives?
Right.
Or are we looking as our lives moving into a more expanded awareness, and how we can go back and forth from both?
I just realized something when you were going like this and you were talking yin yang. If we didn't have the witness, the quiet witness within ourselves, which is, the third one, there's the one that becomes the two, but they don't have awareness of each other until the third one is there. That's why everything has Trinity in it. But when you look at the yin yang, you are looking from the witness side, because if you were either the light or the dark, whichever side of that, you would have no perception of the other, and it's certainly not how they both combine with each other. So it's already it's built in our being to have the Trinity and to have the witness that allows all of it.
Think of it, yin yang is not duality. It's actually a Trinity, because the whole is also one.
Yeah, but I'm just saying you could be one side of the yin and one side of the yang, which I think a lot of people think maybe that's all they are. I'm dealing with the light and I'm struggling with this, and there's evil out there, and let's stay in the light.
Are the reptilians coming? Are we going to have an alien invasion?
Whatever label we put to them.
But
the fact that you could see it and then not put the emotional charge to it, and not condense a possibility into a thing, and make it real. It's from that third base that you're mentioning it, that the frequency expands, you're more in a place of neutrality, and you allow it all to exist because it's existing anyway.
That's right. And how it came to be part of the disclosure topic, as we were talking about today, disclosure is happening as me, regular person. How many other people are learning to shift into the question, are learning to rise above the duality, are learning to become the observer, or embodying more of a Trinity type state? Right. And, it's happening everywhere. Right. And I do think that it's part of it. I do think that is more of a state that can receive and handle some of this about to be disclosed.
Right.
And maybe that really is the disclosure, is that every choice you make is your own. You are sovereign soul. You are making your choice and impressing upon the fabric of reality and having your outcome. And no one else can ever interfere
at every moment
with your individual selection. So as the observer, then, you are really the divine architect. You are the singularity. What you are looking at, what you're focusing on, reflects back. And the yin and yang, the sort of push and pull of life is just a byproduct.
But again, that binary that we were talking about, just like saying, you have to work hard to have results. Because our
We used to think that.
No. I just say our parents and our grandparents, generation that came before us, did work hard and they had results. So it's like, hey, it's a successful.
Hey, it works.
It works. But even that assumption, it doesn't mean sit on your butt, do nothing, and expect things to come to you.
And that's the problem with the next
No,
generation.
that's a whole different story. Little entitlement, but things come easy. So
We
how
won't
do you
talk
do it?
about it.
No, but in that binary, aspects of it, we also can question some of these things that we've inherited. Going, okay, it does work, but is it the only way to manifest? Might.
Yeah.
And it's great to know that you muscle and to flex them, but as you get a little bit older, you go smarter, not harder. So that perspective.
Are you saying push rather than push an idea, accept the outcome? Or
I'm just
and maybe
saying-
both.
I'm just saying it's as binary as we are making it, and in lower frequency, it's more delineated. Yeah, it's either or type of thing. But then as you realize that you look
I love you.
closely,
Forget you.
No, but
Well, binary. Well, because it provides that contrast. Consciousness had to separate itself and to have contrast. And so, the binary is super useful. And, it's just part of a way of viewing things that I feel distinctly that we are shifting slightly out of, in a really in a way that opens up all sorts of more potential.
yeah, and that's exciting actually.
Have you ever
Yeah.
read the label of the Dr. Bronner's soap?
Oh yeah.
The
Awesome.
All-One God soap?
Uh-huh.
Because I have to say that Rabbi Hillel, the man who wrote these rants on these labels, when I was studying existentialism in college, really, it was a rant. It was all one. We're all one, people. We're only one. There's only one in one. How many ones do you want?
One product to wash your hands, to clean your teeth, to wash your hair.
Yeah, and that was what was beautiful about that soap. Because you could go camping and brush your teeth with it.
We have it in every
Clean your
bathroom.
pee-pee pot and everything.
No one likes to brush their teeth with Dr. Bronner's.
Oh, I have not tried. I haven't tried it, but I did wash my hair one time because I had shampoo, and it was okay.
No, I'm only mentioning it because when I went to when I went to graduate school, I was required to write a paper in my third language about what I wanted to do to change the world, and there was this whole existential question, and they said, "What religion are you?" And I said, "How many ones are there in one?" And that's why I love Rabbi Hillel.
Same food, different
There's
menus.
only one.
Yes.
And if you want unity, well, it just never made sense to me when the Christian God was presented to me as there is one God. There's one. Okay, well, what about those people? And those people, and those people, and those people? Because I saw all this racist inequality. And it was like, well, but if there's one creator, then wouldn't that creator equally love a rock as much as they would love the creation of the man or the beast or whatever?
Yeah.
Or even just inform them all the same. Why give them also different perspectives and books and teachers and histories and cultures and languages? And, if you want the same thing, just give them one option.
Right.
But no,
Just
we
one.
One.
There's only one.
both options. Yes.
But maybe that is the disclosure. I mean, it's so interesting because it seems that especially the seeds of Abraham, the Judeo-Christian model of colonialism that has created this dominating worldview, has kept a lot of people from the truth. And you say there could be many truths, but I'm saying the truth that each of us is sovereign, that each of us is making our experience, and each of us has the ability through our choices to make it better.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that I can say to justify keeping people in the dark about their own sovereignty is that, on the cycle of spiritual unfolding, there is a certain value to complete surrender to, let's say, this for the Christians, or to a yogi master, or to a concept of the divine. And so, depending on where people are on their path of unfolding, and the Judeo-Christian religions do provide a container for complete surrender, and almost like they demand like a humility on a level to say like there's a God, or there's a master, or there's a teacher, or somebody who's like so much greater than me. And it's just one of the cycles as you go around, right? Like you can't come into your complete awareness of your fullness of your greatness until you've seen the most humble, inconsequential lowness of your humility, right? And so I do think that part of the two truths, part of the many truths, is that it provides a container and provides a function. And you do see a lot of people shifting away from those and into other spiritual expressions.
Or finding more inclusivity even within them, because the Catholic Church is becoming more inclusive in a way it never has been.
I know, but
Judeo-Christian values are still being shoved down the throat of a lot of people.
Not really, because people are not buying it. But most isms are naturally being, kind of, they're not appealing because, as you said, they're boxed. You're going from a box to someone. Everybody wants freedom, wants understanding, freedom, one light, one peace. And so most likely all of the ism will kind of either blend together into one that is just like the Dalai Lama, my religion is love, is circular enough that everybody fits into it. And so they have to evolve to that at some point,
Hope so.
It's meant to be. I mean, I can't see of any other places
when we talk about disclosure, particularly, why we're talking about religion at all is because what they're finding in the quantum field is that people are projecting together, and through that projection, we are literally creating our world. So if more power were put into the hands of the individual, we then find that belonging. It's belonging or not belonging that has caused so many wars. Are you us or are you them? Are you us or are you them? And this fight that goes back, no, you're not us, and oh, wait, you're them. and so forth. When this idea of this binary, breaking down the binary, that you can be over there in your truth, and I can be over here in my truth, and both truths can vibrate at their own level, in their own time-space continuum.
Yeah.
And I don't have to blow a widget about the guy over there with the dumbass ideas.
No, it's like saying you're in university and you're criticizing the people out there in kindergarten, the kids that are in kindergarten or primary school. There's different information and understanding as you kind of grow on the path. You don't mad at them. They're there. They gotta go from somewhere.
Either vibe or
But what I would like to say is, we talk about big things and big ideas and concepts, but that iceberg that I was saying, the tip of it, we're probably even just like a little bit of layer that's underwater. There's so much more below. I mean, if you think about, we have DNA from reptiles, in our brain. We live in our mother's belly as an amphibian being for 9 months before we were born. We breathe in water. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that nobody really talks about. Our DNA has been tempered. We have all this junk
DNA itself and the field of our DNA.
No, I'm just saying.
That's the next discovery in the quantum field.
Yeah.
Is where the field of the DNA is.
I'm just saying
That's when you get into the interdimensional worlds.
It's almost like ridiculous to think as humanoid, we're human beings with different skins and slightly different hair, but we're the same. Our blood is the same and everything. We have all them and us, and we have all this history that we're like mustering to try to create boundaries and divisions and so forth. But think about it: billions of planets, billions of galaxies. We've been visited. We might have been engineered, tampered with. We go from our archaeologically, they didn't have the wheel, and then they're building pyramids. And literally within not less than 100 years, physically impossible.
Leaps in consciousness
that happen. So we know
progressively
whether it's uncomfortable and the mainstream, academia wants to acknowledge it or not. It has happened, and that's part of the disclosure of more and more people getting to the data themselves, going, "Okay, you guys might want to be straight on that shit, but we know it happened." And so what does that mean? You know, so our little feuds between color schemes and hairstyles is ridiculous because we're beings from other planets. We may have been on other planets.
Don't you think that was the big leap, though, in the 60s when man went off the planet and looked back? If we were to see ourselves relative to the cosmos,
right,
then all of human is one entity type going out into the universe.
Yeah.
Or maybe going in to the universe.
Yeah.
And that's why I think somebody like Dolores Cannon and her thoughts, even this idea of psionics, how to be able to project one's consciousness toward an outcome. Because in the future, don't think that Neuralink isn't just about downloading the internet into the human brain. It's about taking the human consciousness, projecting it into a robot avatar,
and go
that we can
off
send
planets.
to other planets, because the physical body
Can't
go.
travel.
They just can't travel. It's organically not possible.
That's the secret part of the secret.
Through radiation and
everything. It's just, you know, yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So Disclosure Day, we're there.
Well,
are you gonna go?
Are you gonna go see it?
I may go. I don't have plans yet to go. I'm going to let you tell me about it tomorrow morning during coffee.
Oh, no. You want to
I don't know. It's Close Encounters of the Third Kind was such a major thing for me. Beyond being a Trekkie.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a Trekkie. But Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that it all came down to sound.
Brilliant.
Yep.
You know, it was like that just made so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And considering that anytime they've said they've had aliens and you know, I mean, that maybe have crashed and some of them are living, they've always communicated telepathically, which is not an audible sound, but, you know, it's a
vibrational
it's a direct,
increase.
You know, which you can have that with a living master. You know, there's obviously people have experienced those among a mother and a daughter, or a mother and a child. You know, you're from the same flesh. You don't need to talk. Sometimes you hear things. So we have that ability, you know, and these are fascinating. I'm so happy that we're going towards those, because the Tower of Babel and having to use languages has been the beginning of the end, and when people fight and divide and conquer and all of that. It was a chapter, you know, very bloody and, you know, painful chapter with highs and lots of lows.
We were very involved in language technology. You should have seen how bad machine translation was in the 90s.
It was
how not
abominable,
Yeah, because I was a translator, you know, and we met in language school.
Massacred the language.
And I was like, how long would it
And
take?
so the big challenge at that time was to create semantic databases where you could correlate between languages. We just didn't have the computing power to create large language models until now. Artificial intelligence is.
Well, you can kind of see how you've told me the stories about making the early internet accessible by making it accessible to all languages. And doesn't that kind of like solve the Tower of Babel a little bit? Like we can communicate again.
It was called Babel. There was this software called Babel, and it was one of the first machine translations, and Google ended up buying it. And so a lot of people don't know that, you know, predictive text, when you're typing something and it says, is this the word you were looking for? They've been using humans' input for years now, since the internet, for almost 30 years, to record each of those correlations. That's what has fed the semantic databases that became artificial intelligence, that became the large language model, through predictive text. And do you remember that we used to have to solve these little puzzles, you know, word puzzles that they would make you solve in order to authenticate? That's the same thing. CAPTCHAs are a way for humans to embed those databases, because there were so many words that needed to be embedded.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember that. It was prove you're a human.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going toward a model. Where'd you go?
I had a cough.
We're going toward a model where everything that can be said, everything that ever was said, is all now recorded.
Absolutely.
That's where we are. I mean, 30 years. It took 30 years for all of the books to be put online, and for what the content, and in each of these languages, because we didn't even have language input until 1990. Well, when Unicode was published, so that was 95 or 96. Yeah. So 30 years now of all of the languages being input. All words from every language. So literally, if you think about artificial intelligence, it is the Akashic record. It is all of the words of human languages all put into one big place.
Yeah, it's a simulation of the Akashic record, in that you don't always get back the granular accuracy that you could, but we hopefully will in the future. It's still very subjective, but interesting for sure.
And it's also interesting that DNA is such an efficient storage, because DNA is going to be where all computer data is stored in the future, because it's such an incredible...
It's infinite storage.
It's infinite storage. And so maybe the people who designed us actually did a very effective job through DNA. And maybe the field of DNA, stay tuned, because we're going to keep exploring this.
Yeah.
Disclosure Day. Thanks for being with us, Mistie.
Yeah. It's so
Thanks for me. Enjoy your movie.
We will let you know about it.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Okay. Talk soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for spending time with us on Herstory Revisited. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show, share it with someone else, and please subscribe. It really helps more people discover the podcast and the channel. Until the next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and we'll see you soon.